You are listening to episode 1 of the Podfather Show with your host, the Podfather. Nancy Pelosi calls for canceling the presidential debate between President Donald Trump and presidential hopeful Joe Biden. Joe Biden's response and more in this episode of the Podfather Show. Welcome back. I'm your host, the Podfather. Nancy Pelosi, in a news conference in the Capitol on Thursday, as the House Speaker, had actually suggested that the presidential debates between President Donald Trump and presidential hopeful Joe Biden be canceled, stating that she doesn't want there to be any debates between the two, which is tradition with U.S. presidency in American history. It's something that's just expected. It's never been viewed as an option or, something that can be opted out of or elected out of. I mean, whenever there is a presidential election, there's always debates. The debates go back as far as I can remember anyway. There's always been presidential debates. It's how we determine what the stance is, what the political stage is for each presidential candidate, and what their goals are, what their defining jobs are going to be, and how we determine who we're going to vote for. And without there being a presidential debate, how can we make an educated decision as who we're going to vote for? I mean, granted, there's always going to be those people that will always vote red or those people that will always vote blue, regardless of who is running. And that's been evident in the last couple of elections that we've had. But a truly educated voter, one who truly weighs decisions, weighs facts, and wants what's best for their country, our country, at least in their mind, would want a presidential debate just so they could make an educated decision as to who they're going to vote for. Like I myself I don't vote Republican or Democrat. I vote for who I feel is going to withhold or uphold the Constitution to the best of their ability to protect the people, who's really going to work for the people. And if that just so happened to be a Democrat one year, then so be it. And that's the way that we should all vote. We should all gather the information and listen to the candidates in their speeches, their debates, to hear how well that they articulate their plan, their ideas, so we can truly get to know them as a person. Without the presidential debates, we have to ask, is that really possible? Can we truly get to know the person? Even after a 4-year candidacy, people change. Their ideas change. A president's mindset can change from the beginning of one election to the beginning of the next election. So it's important that we hear who that person is. Have they become better at their job? Are they more qualified at their job now? Are they indifferent? And the person that's challenging them, to win that spot as a president, we are owed that right to hear their viewpoints, their perspectives, their mindsets, to know where their heart is, where their mind's at, and get to know them in a presidential manner. Now, granted, Joe Biden has been vice president. He's been in politics for an extremely long period of time, but we've never heard him as a presidential candidate. And we're owed that as American people, as American citizens, citizens that pay their taxes, citizens that vote. Even if you don't vote, you're owed that. We are owed the presidential debates so that we know our president. We know who it is that's behind those images and the videos that we see of them in day-to-day life. And for Nancy Pelosi to come onto the scene and in a news conference, and for her to state that she wants the presidential debate to be canceled, or suggesting that it be canceled, it's mind-boggling. It's truly difficult to wrap one's mind around that. I mean, I don't know how many of you have heard, her statement in this news conference. We have it here. We're going to be playing it here a little bit later. So hold on and bear with us. We're actually going to get to it and play it here a little bit later. But whether you like Nancy Pelosi or not, you owe it to your fellow countrymen to think that it's absurd that she would suggest such a thing. That's like saying, you know what? Let's just cancel the election and just keep the president we got. It's not fair. Even as a Republican or someone that has Republican tendencies, I have a duty to my fellow countrymen to say that's not fair. We are owed these things. We deserve. It's part of our political system. We don't get to just come along now after several hundred years and say, hey, look, we're going to change things. We don't like the way it's going. I don't think I'm going to like the outcome of this, so we're just going to avoid it entirely. That's not how it works, Nancy. That's not how it works. And unfortunately for all of us other Americans is, Nancy, you don't have the authority to decide that. And for you to suggest that, your political position in office needs to be questioned, because clearly you don't have the American people's best interest at heart. You don't have American core values at heart for you to just say that, we're not going to do this, or you don't feel that we should do this. Well, Nancy went on to say in this news conference that she didn't want this to be told to Joe Biden, which is a joke. She knows it's going to get to Joe Biden. She's probably even said it to herself, to Joe Biden. So let's face it, the reason what she's saying that is more than anything probably just to cover her tracks, and just in case, something were to, the circumstances were to play out where there wasn't a presidential election or a debate, or they were canceled for whatever reason. She's covering her tracks, trying to protect Joe Biden's interest and stuff. That's obvious. We can all see that. Proving such as another story, but I mean, it's evident. It's clear why she had said that, because she should know in her position, especially as a politician, anything she says publicly is going to get to the other candidates, the other politicians around her in her circle. Nancy had actually said, and her exact words were, and I quote, "I don't think there should be any debates," end quote. Going on to add that she doesn't want the debates to become an exercise in skullduggery. I have to admit, I was a little bit dumbfounded there. I was stumped. I mean, I kind of got the gist of what skullduggery had meant, but admittedly, I did have to look it up. And what she's saying is, well, the definition of skullduggery is underhanded or unscrupulous behavior, trickery, swindling, fraudulent. So she doesn't want the debates to become trickery. She doesn't want the debates to become unscrupulous behavior. She doesn't want the debates to become fraudulent. Well, how would a presidential debate become trickery, swindling, or fraudulent unless you just weren't going to have them? I would really like Nancy to be held accountable to her statements and be forced to explain this in more depth, with more meaning and more meat and substance to her statements. And as a politician, which is supposed to be representing the American people, she kind of owes us that. She owes us a deeper explanation of her statements. And she also went on to say, "I wouldn't legitimize a conversation with him," meaning President Trump, "nor a debate in terms of the presidency of the United States." So she wouldn't legitimize to make legitimate. She wouldn't validate a debate with him without giving any explanation as to why, other than saying that she doesn't want it to become skullduggery. She kind of had accused President Trump of doing some of these things with Hillary Clinton, which I watched all of that live. To my recollection, it was kind of the other way around. With Hillary Clinton being given the debate questions in advance and having them handed, in her hands during the live taping of the debate. If anyone was, could be accused of skullduggery in the debate, it would have been the Democratic Party in the 2016 election. So, if President Trump wasn't found, which is kind of surprising with all the things the Democrats have accused him of over the last 4 years, it's kind of surprising that they haven't accused him of trickery in the debates. The one thing that is proven, one of the many things that is proven that the Democrats have indeed done, but they haven't accused him of that, and that's actually kind of surprising. Come to think of it, it's one of many things or they have accused him of many things. That's one of the things that they haven't accused him of. But we're going to play a recording now. We're going to play a short snippet of the Nancy Pelosi audio recording showing or where she was speaking this. We got a short snippet here. We're going to go ahead and play that.
Since you asked about that, I myself just don't tell anybody I told you this, especially don't tell Joe Biden. I don't think that there should be any debates.
What do you think about it? How do you take that? I mean, there's no misconstruing what she said. There's no misunderstanding what she said. She could have said it verbatim. She doesn't think there should be any debates. And don't tell Joe Biden. Clearly, she's talking about the presidential debates. Joe Biden, on the other hand, has a different perspective of that. He had made a statement to MSNBC that he's actually looking forward to the debates, and Joe Biden actually wants to fact check live in real time all of Donald Trump's statements that he's going to make during the debates, and Joe Biden wants to not only debate Trump but also spend his time live in real time himself fact checking all of the statements that Donald Trump's going to make during the debate. That sounds like he's going to have his hands full. I don't think I could actually spend my time. I'm a little bit, I'm more coherent than Biden is, and I don't think I could spend my time both fact checking my counterpart in a debate, plus paying enough attention to rebuttal the things that they're saying and interject my own ideas, thoughts, and beliefs into the debate all at the same time. That's a lot of work. So maybe Biden's already planning on having some outside help, maybe through an earpiece or something, or maybe once again he's just rambling and just doesn't, understand clearly what it is that he's saying. But that seems like a lot of work for someone to have to do, especially someone that is obviously having the mental functioning problems that Joe Biden is having right now and that are becoming evident. So the first debates are actually scheduled to be on September 29th in Cleveland, Ohio. And so Nancy Pelosi had come out just a little bit more than 30 days, just a little bit more than a month before those debates are scheduled, making this statement. And we're going to go ahead and play the entire clip here. This is a little bit long, but this is the entire clip, so nothing can be taken out of context. Here we go.
Asked about that, I myself just don't tell anybody I told you this, especially don't tell Joe Biden. I don't think that there should be any debates. I do not think that the President of the United States has comported himself in a way that anybody should, and that has any association with truth, evidence, data, and facts. I wouldn't legitimize a conversation with him nor a debate in terms of the presidency of the United States. Now, I know that the Biden campaign thinks in a different way about this, but I thought what he did in the 2016 was disgraceful, stalking Hillary Clinton like that. I was disappointed that the press didn't say, go back to your station. You're not here. You don't own this stage. You have your own podium. She has hers. So I think that he'll probably act in a way that is beneath the dignity of the presidency. He does that every day. But I think he will also belittle what the debates are supposed to be about. And they're not to be about the skullduggery on the part of somebody who has no respect for the office he holds, much less the democratic process. Why else would he try to undermine the elections in the manner in which he is doing? So if Joe Biden asked you what I thought about it, I don't think that he should dignify that conversation with Donald Trump. You ask them any questions, both of them. Just take their own stage for any number of conversations about any subjects. Hold them accountable. What are they proposing? What is their vision? What is their knowledge? How are we going to get it done? How do they connect with the American people? Let that be a conversation with the American people, not an exercise in skullduggery. Thank you all very much.
You heard it yourself. She wants to cancel the debates. Now, she did go on to suggest that maybe each candidate can have a conversation with the American people. I don't know how that's going to happen, but there's a lot of American people, Nancy Pelosi. But she's, I guess, suggesting that each one be pre-recorded and then played back as a conversation that's not actually taking place with the American people, so that we can still get to hear the president, hopeful, and the current president speak. But that's not a debate between them two, debating their policies, their agendas, their work practices, and getting to question or to reply to each other, rebuttal each other. It goes against everything that's American as far as the presidential debates go. And for her to say that she doesn't want, or not to say this to Joe Biden, and then at the end she's like, if Joe Biden asks. So again, clearly she doesn't mind or want, and if he doesn't already even know, Joe Biden to know what she thinks or how she feels about this. She's actually, you talk about interfering with an election. Ladies and gentlemen, we have it. And we got Biden's response for this, and where he had, Biden actually told NBC News that he can hardly wait for the debate. Now, yes, Biden had said this about a month ago. This isn't a direct response to Nancy Pelosi's statement to the news conference on Thursday, but clearly Biden is wholeheartedly in it for the debate. He wants to have this debate. He wants to debate Donald Trump. It's Nancy that clearly is wanting to have this debate canceled.
I can hardly wait. I can hardly wait to deal with what he refers himself as a stable genius. I can hardly wait to debate him.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it. So moving forward, I guess we can only see how this is going to play out. This is a whole another topic for another podcast, but one can't help but to think, that all of this coronavirus stuff, the quarantine stuff, to stay at home, the mail-in balloting, mail-in voting, if all of this isn't all pieces of puzzle that are finally starting to fit together now that the end of the year is here. I'm not saying that the coronavirus isn't real. I believe it's real. That's not what I'm saying, but I do believe that in many ways the Democratic Party is using it to their advantage with trying to force the mail-in voting and stuff, and trying to quarantine people and making us believe that, it's not safe to go out in public, and they're closing churches and schools. Well, people, that's where a lot of our voting takes place. It's churches and schools. but they're saying those places aren't safe. Now, it's perfectly safe to go into a Walmart or Best Buy or even a restaurant, but you can't go into a church or a school, the two of the many places where a lot of our voting takes place. So when you kind of consider things and kind of fit all these pieces together, it's easy to reason that this is all just part of their plan. They're manipulating the current events for their agenda, which is to prevent Joe Biden from being on a stage in front of the American people debating with President Trump live, because they know that he isn't coherent enough, and possibly, I mean, I'm not a doctor, I can't diagnose him, but possibly even suffering from dementia, which does seem obvious, and making that realization known to the American people that Joe Biden isn't mentally fit to be president of the United States, which is something ironically, the Democratic Party had accused Trump of in the beginning of his term, back in the beginning of his 4-year term. So that would also make them hypocrites for to avoid that situation. So what better way to avoid having to discuss that situation? So what better way to hide that fact and not bring that realization to the forefront in front of the American people on live TV than to just avoid the debates altogether? And if they are able to have pre-recorded debates with Joe Biden, well, then they can edit that stuff together to the moon and back and record that stuff for weeks to get it right, and to where they can hide all those incompetencies and not reveal it to the American people. So, but my idea is that the presidential debate should still go on, and Nancy Pelosi should stop being such a hypocrite and quit trying to change the way that we do things, and to leave the president alone and allow him to do his job, leave the election and the debates alone, and allow the American political system to go on as it always has and as it always should. I am the Podfather, and this is the end of the Podfather Show. Thank you for listening.